It is 11 o'clock. Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of Three Man Front on this Football Friday. Appreciate you tuning us in. We'll go and talk to Mike Rodak from Bama 247 momentarily, get his feelings and thoughts. Prediction time for the Alabama Crimson Tide against the Oklahoma Sooners coming up tomorrow. Abide Roofing is raising the roof. Literally, Abide Roofing is giving one deserving homeowner a brand new roof completely free. This isn't a gimmick. It's not a sales pitch. It's their way of giving back to you and to the community that's trusted Abide with their homes. Here's how it works. Fill out the quick form there at abideroof.com. Look for a green bar at the top of the homepage. Nominate yourself or someone who deserves it. Then watch for the winning announcement coming up next month. Value is up to a 30-square roof or roughly $13,000. Maybe it's someone who's fallen on hard times and can't afford repairs, or it's a single parent working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Maybe it's a veteran, a first responder, or maybe even it's a teacher who's giving back to others, or maybe it's just that neighbor who volunteers in the community and that is a pillar of your community. Whoever it is, Abide wants to hear your story. At Abide Roofing, they believe everyone deserves a safe, reliable roof over their head, and this is their way of giving back to you. Don't wait. Entries are now open. Enter through December 12th, 2025. Winner will be announced on December 19th. For complete details and to enter the free roofing giveaway, just go to abideroof.com.
Our friend Mike Rodak does a wonderful job covering the Alabama Crimson Tide, a part of Bama 247, joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Happy Friday, Mike. How are you?
Doing well. Happy Friday to you, too.
We lead off with the Oklahoma game, of course, coming up tomorrow at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We know what Oklahoma does well, and that's play defense. Offense has been shaky at times under John Mateer. What's the biggest concern for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer heading into tomorrow?
I think it's definitely the Oklahoma defense versus their offense. I think that's kind of the more intriguing matchup to me, because I think that could have the potential to be, really the swing point. Because look, this Alabama offense has given up 4 straight games with a strip sack, and this Oklahoma defense, I think, is capable of putting up multiple of those. They're certainly capable of really piling up sacks against you. We'll have to continue to monitor, what happens with our Mason Thomas, the pass rusher who got hurt with that long fumble return against Tennessee. But even without him, they have a good number of different guys that they can send after ties. So it's certainly one of the best pass rushing teams in the country, one of the best defenses in the country in general. And, Ty's done a good job of taking care of the football through the air in terms of, only throwing 1 interception. Like I said, he's had those 4 straight games with the strip sack, and they've been able to work around that, to kind of limit the damage from those turnovers. But this is probably a defense that has the potential to turn you over multiple times. If that happens, you just start to wonder about the ability for Alabama to overcome that, given the lack of a running game and, the deep ball also not really coming together. So that's kind of where it hinges for me. If you can continue to take care of the football, don't throw any picks, great. If you don't fumble at all, if there's no sacks, that's great. But this Oklahoma defense capable of doing a lot of things against you.
I know we've talked about this multiple times with you over the course of the season, and we've got to the point now to where so many people are asking questions about Alabama's running game, and Alabama is winning despite not technically having the type of running game that you've seen in years past when Alabama's potentially played for championships. With all that being said, do you think it's more of a personnel situation with the running back room? Is it an offensive line issue? Is it what they're designing scheme-wise from Ryan Grubb with the offense? Like, where would, I guess, not the blame, but I guess where's the issue with the running game, the fact that we're not seeing a lot more yardage?
I think it's all of the above. I don't know if you brought in, I remember in Buffalo, I covered Greg Roman, who's known as one of the great run offense minds in football. I don't know if you brought him in to be your offensive coordinator if they were going to run the ball much better, just because you have different scheme or different play caller. So I still don't know how much. I think Ryan Grubb is certainly one of the best in the country. I think he knows what he's doing when it comes to the run game. He's obviously done a really good job of kind of working around it. So I don't know if it's as much that to me. I think there's probably some things there you could look at, but to me, it's more about the personnel along the offensive line and, the running back position too. I think sometimes people, I don't know, there's different theories and opinions on what they have at running back, but Jam Miller's not the most explosive player, and he's not a player who makes a lot of people miss. And he does get some tough yards sometimes, but even those have not come quite as easily for him. And Daniel Hill's not explosive from a speed standpoint. He has a bigger body, so you put Travion Henderson in this backfield, to name an NFL player who's been super explosive this season. I think you get better results. So I do think the personnel at running back has something to do with it. I know people are kind of itching to see A.K. Deere, the freshman. I'm still skeptical, whether that's going to happen or not. I know he had that kind of cryptic social media post, but I think people sometimes read too much into those. So I think he's more of a next year project, if you will. So you just kind of have to deal with what you have at running back. I mean, they haven't used Richard Young. They haven't used Dre Washington, who's been the transfer from Louisiana. And I just don't know if they have a better option in that backfield. And the same thing with the offensive line. If they had a great starting right tackle or a great starting left guard, I think they would use it. But they continue to rotate because they don't have that right now. So to me, it's more about the personnel than the scheme. But that's not to say that scheme is entirely absolved of any blame on this.
Mike, given the struggles in that running game, what Oklahoma does defensively, what different elements could you foresee Ryan Grubb going to try to move the football?
Anything. I think it's almost hard to foresee because I'm sure that he's been thinking of different ways, and then we'll all see it happen on Saturday and kind of be either amazed and wowed, or it won't work, and then we'll be saying, oh, they can't make it happen again. And Caden Proctor out of the backfield, or Caden Proctor in the slot, or whatever it might be. Jeremy Bernard in the backfield, Daniel Hill taking direct snaps. They've tried a lot of different things. I'm sure there's still other wrinkles that we haven't seen. And some of it's worked, some of it hasn't. Obviously, the Proctor thing has kind of cooled down a little bit. But he's good at finding different things. And Brent Venables is also good on the other side of anticipating things. And, he's probably the best defensive mind in college football right now. So really interesting matchups between those two guys. And the thing is, you don't know what to expect. And it's almost it's like you open a prize and you just happen to see what it is. And I think we'll see on Saturday, what they have planned, but that's no guarantee that it's going to work. I do think we're going to see some unorthodox things from Grubb, though, just to try to get through this game and win this game. That's still pretty important to them.
Mike Rodak joining us from Bama 247 here on the Higginbotham Hotline, joins us every Friday talking Alabama football. So I got to ask you about the availability report. Everyone's interest kind of peaked when Quay Russaw shows back up on the injury report. Maybe his availability will not be okay for tomorrow's game, but moving forward, how big would that be for the defensive side if Quay Russaw is back in the mix?
Yeah, it adds another body there. It adds another player with some athletic ability. There wasn't a huge impact the first couple games that he played this season. And, obviously one of those is Florida State. So sometimes I think kind of the anticipation or the excitement about Quay Russaw kind of outpaces what he's actually done so far, but he has a lot of potential in terms of what his frame is, what his athletic ability is. So if you get that back, it adds something different to your defense, but I don't know if that means you're taking Yonze Pierre off the field. Maybe it gives Yonze Pierre a little bit of a breather and you try to use him a little bit more as a spot pass rusher. But he's been a revelation for him. The 6 sacks that he's had since Russaw has been down has been huge for this defense. So you add Russaw back to that, you don't want to eliminate any impact that Pierre has had. So it's a balance, I think, given the way that Kane Womack runs this defense, and there's so many players rotating in and out, and they've already been rotating, Justin Hill, the freshman, and Noah Carter, the second-year player at that position. I think Russaw would just enter into that mix, but I don't know if he would play a huge snap count. I don't know if his impact would be great. And at the end of the day, I'm still, we'll have to see what tonight's report says. I still wonder, given what we saw earlier in their season with some injuries, they kind of ramped guys up and maybe they even dressed them for pregame warmups. And then it's really about getting them ready for the next week. And in this case, you have kind of an extra week because of Eastern Illinois next week. And I would still wonder if we don't see Quay Russaw in a real capacity until the Iron Bowl.
Bama 247's Mike Rodak joining us for a few more minutes here on Three Man Front on the Higginbotham Hotline. You look at the strengths of both of these teams, Mike. How much Do you foresee maybe a possibility that we get a rock fight inside of Bryant-Denny Stadium tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that's certainly within the realm of possibility. I mean, Alabama's defense has been better. I think John Mateer is still a little bit shaky in terms of what you want to see out of him and what you thought you would see out of him, but the potential is there for him as a runner. The potential is there for him as a passer. He has thrown a good amount of picks. This is an Alabama defense that is opportunistic and good at creating turnovers. So I think you can foresee a game where Mateer throws a pick or two, but I can also see a game where Alabama has multiple offensive turnovers against really the best defense that they're going to see so far this season. So I think a lower scoring game is certainly possible. There is enough talent on both teams offensively that you can put up 25, 30 points. That wouldn't shock me either. But I do think the way that these defenses are playing this season and lately, it's more likely to be a rock fight than it is a boat race.
We will get your prediction coming up in just a minute or so, but I wanted to ask you about big picture because it appears, based on the college football playoff, what's at stake tomorrow. Obviously, Bama wins. It looks really good for them to be a college football playoff contender. It doesn't matter what happens in the Iron Bowl. I know that's blasphemy to some people, but that's just where we are now in college sports. But if they were to lose to Oklahoma, then needless to say, they got to win at Auburn to even get a sniff at the CFP. Just talk about the bigger picture here and what's on the line for both Oklahoma and Bama tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for Bama, winning puts them in a really good spot. I still don't know if you're a lock for the playoff if you beat Oklahoma, because you look at the scenario of, okay, you beat Oklahoma, hypothetically you lose to Auburn, hypothetically you get blown out in the SEC championship game. I think that's the scenario where I would have some level of doubt about Alabama making it, especially not that he's even on the committee anymore, but Mac Rhodes, who was last week the chairman of the CFP selection committee, was asked about the possibility of kind of what it means to lose a conference championship game. And he said, theoretically, it shouldn't hurt a team, but he also said, we'll take into account if it is a lopsided game. And in that particular scenario, you would have two pretty bad losses. Auburn and Florida State are not good teams. And then a blowout loss, hypothetically, in the SEC championship game, likely to A&M. I think you're probably in. I think you're certainly going on the road in that scenario, to play a road first-round game. But I'm not sure you're guaranteed to get in. So just to kind of get that one out of the way. But, yeah, I mean, there's kind of different paths here. If you win out, you're obviously guaranteed a first-round bye. I think if you lose to Auburn and win the SEC championship game, you're still getting a first-round bye. I think it's going to be interesting if you beat Auburn and then lose the SEC championship game. I think you're probably right on the edge of a bye versus hosting a home playoff game, and I think the way that Texas Tech plays is going to have a lot to do with that. So, there's still different paths that can happen here, but right now, it's still very likely that Alabama is going to be playing in Atlanta in the SEC championship game. Even if they lose one of these next two games, they're still in a pretty good position as far as tiebreakers. It's not a clinch scenario, but you know that the 13th game, the 13th data point is pretty likely at this point. It's just a matter of how the committee handles that. And last year, they didn't penalize teams very much. Penn State losing, Texas losing. I think they dropped one spot. SMU losing and still getting in. So we'll just have to see how this committee, as it's constructed this season, handles that.
A huge one coming up, to say the least, not only in Tuscaloosa, but various other campuses around college football tomorrow when it comes to conference championship races and also the college football playoffs. So when it's all said and done, how do you think the game plays out tomorrow at Bryant-Denny, and who wins the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's their second toughest game of the year after Georgia. And we've probably said that a few times now, but I think just now we have more data on all these teams. I think it's probably the case. So, I can foresee a scenario where Alabama loses. Like I said, multiple offensive turnovers. You're not able to move the ball. You're not able to run the ball. I think we all kind of know what the formula would be. But I still think, given the way that this team has played at home, given the way that Ty Simpson has protected the ball, given the talent you have at wide receiver, given Oklahoma not potentially having R. Mason Thomas, given John Mateer's, an interception propensity to some degree there, I do think this is a game that Alabama wins. I think I forgot my final score prediction on that. I think it was like 27-24, something like that, 3 or 4 point game.
Well, you're lucky. I have it
So
right here, Mike. Would you like me to remind you?
okay,
You said
thank you.
28-24.
28-24, yeah,
Yes.
4 point game, which not covering. I think the 6 point is the spread right now, but yeah, I mean, I think they'll win. But again, I think it's a tough game. I think it's a game that protecting the ball is going to be really important because these are two teams that really like to force turnovers.
That is Mike Rodak. You can follow his work at Bama247. Should be a really good one tomorrow at 2:30. Mike, always appreciate your time. Have a good weekend.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Mike Rodak from Bama247. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
We got a couple of good games in college football tonight. Loaded up weekend when it comes to college football beginning tomorrow morning and through Monday night with Monday Night Football. The place is the Finnick. That's the great place to go to enjoy all of the great action you're going to see this weekend. Massive screens, explosive sounds, every seat in the house. They got a new restaurant menu, certainly worth cheering for. Great wings, wood-fire grilled burgers, hand-cut steaks, and fresh Gulf seafood. Check them out, whether it's this afternoon, 5:30 to 8. You're going to get some acoustic music or enjoy Clemson, Louisville, Oregon, Minnesota, and then, of course, Alabama, Oklahoma tomorrow. And they're going to turn up the game, the sound of the game. So you don't have to leave your place there to go and find out what's going on. It can kind of get lost, but they understand where they are, the college football audience that they have. It's the Finnick, 1630 2nd Avenue South near Railroad Park.
More of this Football Friday, including what's going on with some Vegas odds with some coaching moves. One name has been taken off the board for one school. We'll tell you who it is next on Three Man Front. It is 11:21 on this Football Friday. The coaching carousel continues to spin. It's almost every couple minutes during one of our breaks. We're getting text messages and looking at stuff on message boards, just kind of getting a feel of what's going on. And you were noticing because you keep your eye on the betting odds for the coaching search and interesting transpiration or what's going on with the situation at Florida.
Yeah, this has changed since this morning. So I refreshed it and I saw that there were only certain jobs that they were still offering. Florida is off the board. Completely off the board. There are no betting odds at betonline.ag. No longer offered.
Do you think that means that someone has pretty much agreed to a job and there's no reason to have odds anymore? Or you think that's just,
or maybe there's been too much chatter behind the scenes confirming that one candidate was going to stay in place, but this would tell me if you take it off the board, don't you just change the odds?
I would think.
But Florida's coaching vacancy is no longer offered. Now, it might come back up and they might refresh it and edit it. But I just found that interesting.
No, it's very fascinating.
It's been a mainstay on there every single day that they've offered coaches odds.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of started the show talking about this. There's been a lot of chatter, especially late yesterday afternoon, about Florida and Lane Kiffin. You had articles this morning from Ross Dellinger talking about Lane Kiffin and his life in Oxford. We saw the E60 piece on Lane Kiffin about a month and a half ago by Ryan McGee. Just been a lot of conversation about what potentially is going to happen. I talked to some people that has always been extremely useful for me in my career, giving me information about Ole Miss. And they simply told me yesterday that some very big boosters around the Rebel football program are now concerned in regards to what's going to happen in the future with Lane Kiffin. And it goes without saying that a lot of our audience, they know who Neil McCready is. Neil McCready used to be a writer here in the state of Alabama. He wrote for the Mobile Press Register. I think he covered, was it Alabama or Auburn during that time frame? I cannot remember.
I thought it was Auburn.
Was it Auburn? It might have been. But Neil moved over to the state of Mississippi, and he's been covering Ole Miss for a while. I think now he works for the Ole Miss 247 website. Well, he does a podcast. And so yesterday on this podcast, he kind of brings up the question of whether Lane Kiffin is going to be back next year at Ole Miss. And here's a little snippet from the Neil McCready podcast from Ole Miss 247.
Would you guess today that Lane Kiffin is or is not the coach at Ole Miss next year? Or what would you say? Yes or no? Is he the coach at Ole Miss next year?
How'd you answer that question, sir?
I answered it with one word. I said no. I said, well,
that went well.
I said there's more to it than that, obviously, because I said if I were answering the question fully, there would be caveats.
Right.
There would be context, and it would be nuanced. But if you're asking me to do it precisely the way that you're asking me to do it, the answer would be no. There's two options, yes or no. And my answer right now would be no. Now, my answer earlier in the week probably would have been yes.
There you go. So what do you take from those comments?
That he's heard the same things that you have heard, and it makes him question it. I don't know. Again, if $13.5 million was reportedly the offer, unless there's other reasons that Lane gives, I find it hard to believe you make that move based on what Ole Miss is dedicated and committed to you. How much more room? I know that you're not in charge of their finances, but the people you talk to, how much more room do they have to go for Lane Kiffin?
Well, it's interesting because certain people that I talk to, they say that it's never going to be a money issue. Like, for instance, let's just say that money was the root of his motivation of where he wants to go and what he wants to do. Ole Miss is completely prepared to match any offer.
By the way, no coach is ever going to admit that money was their motivator.
Right.
But go ahead.
That's what I was told. But then it gets to a certain point. How much is enough? You heard Brett Norsworthy many times on this radio show say that, if he decided tomorrow to leave to another school, he'd say, thank you very much for what you've done the last 6 years at Ole Miss.
Based on your understanding, things that are they in need of anything? Is he meeting a brick wall on certain issues?
Everything he's wanted, he's gotten.
See,
that's what I'm saying. I don't. It just comes a point in time with anybody. I'm not saying he's negotiating with Ole Miss on anything, but let's just say if you were, I'm not really sure what else you need or want, because they've given him everything he wanted and desired. So at some point, you just have to say, oh, okay, well, thank you for 6 years.
You got a great relationship with your president, your athletic director, the folks there in Oxford.
His whole family moved there. His brother Chris, they're heavily rooted there in Oxford. You've seen the documentaries about, he doesn't eat meat, doesn't eat desserts. He does yoga 5 times a week. I don't, at the end of the day, Lane's going to be Lane. Coaches are going to be coaches. So we'll see what happens.
I could see I couldn't see the LSU move either.
I would see
it more likely at LSU.
You do see, I'm just the opposite.
Okay.
And the reason why is because he is not going to get involved in that quagmire that is the government and the governor.
I was saying take all of that out, just jobs.
Okay.
I was saying LSU.
Okay, now I was talking the whole package.
Oh, that's a mess down there.
Yeah, the whole package, it would be Florida before you would even consider. Now, keep in mind that before he took the Ole Miss job, he had his offer either take the Arkansas job or take the Ole Miss job. And I know this from a very, very good source, that Lane literally looked at the 2 rosters and said, where can I win quicker? Is it in Fayetteville? Is it Oxford? And he chose Oxford because back then, those rosters and what you had as underclassmen, it mattered because this was before the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And he realized that he could be more competitive quicker than he could in Fayetteville. And he was.
So he's not a candidate for the Arkansas job right now?
I would say you can firmly take him off the board.
Okay, so he's not one of the 8. Okay.
Would you say that Steve Spurrier is someone that Lane Kiffin really looks up to?
I'll be honest with you. Outside of his own father, who was an outstanding football coach, I don't know.
Do they have a relationship?
No, I was just going to say, I don't know who we all know his affinity for Nick Saban, but
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard him say does he wear a visor because Steve Spurrier wear a visor?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at.
I don't know that. I can't recall him doing an interview where he says, I've modeled my career after this coach. We know how he feels about Nick Saban and how Nick Saban saved his career. And we know how he feels about his father, who was an outstanding football coach. But I've never heard him say anything about Steve Spurrier, whether he loves him or loathes him or whatever the case may be. I don't know.
Phone calls coming in, 205-834-9450. Speak of the devil. Well, not Lane Kiffin, but Lee, who is a big Florida fan. He's in Cincinnati. Hey, Lee, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. What I have to say is I know why the Florida job's taken off the board because they gave it to me because I've got a tattoo of the Florida Gator on my left shoulder, and I have an undefeated record as a head coach. I'm going to need y'all's help as my backup because I'm going in with – going to learn from Brian Kelly and Hugh Freeze. I'm going in and telling them I need $8 million. I'm going to pay each one of y'all $1 million to help me out. Lander, you can be my offensive coordinator, and Pat, you can be my defensive coordinator.
Love it.
And Molly, you can be special teams. And the thing is that, and like I said, I'll bring in Don as a man that I need for my scouting director. Damien's going to be running backs and wide receivers, and John, you're going to be the offensive line. You see, and the thing is that I'll tell that right across the board, I'm going to give you each $1 million out of my paycheck. That's what I'm going to learn from Brian Kelly, and I'm only going to get asked for $8 million, but I'm going to pay each one of y'all $1 million across the board a piece. That way y'all help me out, and then just say I need to buy out straight across the board at $15 million, and I'll pay out equally to everybody once we get fired, because I couldn't do a worse job than Billy Napier did, and they want to go a different route. I think this is the way to go. What do y'all think?
I loved your plan. Just let us know when we're supposed to report.
Yes,
In all
I'll be there.
seriousness, though, Lee, right now with this buzz about Lane Kiffin, you're a big Florida Gators fan. Do you believe that Lane Kiffin is going to be your next head coach?
Yes, I do. I think that's why it was taken off the board and why Vegas isn't giving any more eyes on it, because I think they already have somebody in place, and I sincerely do think that it is going to be Lane Kiffin. Now, that might just be wishful thinking, but I think it all logically points that way.
What do you think the dollar amount looks like per season? What have you heard from your Gator friends?
You said 13 and a half. I heard 15 from a couple people.
Okay. Well, that was the number. I'd say, yeah, that'd probably make you – but it's not about money. It's not the motivator. You hear that, right?
No, it is it? No. So, but that's why, like I said, I think that we could all retire and have our own Josh radio station after we're all done in 2 or 3 years for my buyout. How does that sound, guys? Y'all help me out?
Let's do it. I'm ready. Well, Lee, we appreciate it. Good luck in your coaching search. And when Lane Kiffin is named as Florida's next head coach, I want you to come back on the show, and you can bask in it.
I will. I promise.
Thanks, Lee.
guys. Y'all
Appreciate it.
Thank
We
you,
will
man.
continue with your calls. It's a Football Friday on Jocks. If you got a dangerous tree leaning over your house or maybe branches blocking your view, call Golston Tree Service today at 205-337-4443. Let them come out, take a look at your situation. They can address any issue you have. They're licensed pros. They can handle everything and anything from trimming and pruning to full tree removals. They will grind that stump out and get rid of it for you fast, safe, and affordable. Don't wait until the next storm causes damage around your house. Call Golston Tree Service today. Golston also offers that 24-hour emergency tree service, 205-337-4443. That's Golston Tree Service. So when it comes to your trees, don't risk it. Call Golston Tree Service. So we were talking a little bit earlier in the show. I was kind of reminding everybody about what happened, when Lane Kiffin was the offensive coordinator for Alabama. Alabama was in the college football playoff. He had already been named the head coach at FAU. And what ended up happening is Alabama they beat Washington, but it was less than stellar offensively.
It's 24-0. Yeah.
Should have been a lot more based on what they had at their disposal. And so days after that, Lane Kiffin was fired by Nick Saban. Told him, go ahead, get to work early. And Steve Sarkisian, who was an analyst on the team, who had been around the team all year long, he called the plays in the national championship game. And this was the story that was posted after the announcement of Lane Kiffin being fired at Alabama. It says, privately, Saban was worried that Kiffin already had 1 foot out the door before the Crimson Tide played Washington in Saturday's CFP semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta. He worried that Kiffin was spending too much time assembling his coaching staff and recruiting players for his new school. Kiffin had coaching candidates flying to Tuscaloosa for interviews during the holiday break before the Peach Bowl, and then he and new Owls offensive coordinator Kendall Briles interviewed more candidates in Atlanta. Then he was fired by Nick Saban. So we brought this up a little bit earlier. Let's just say that this dalliance with Florida continues, or whatever's going on behind closed doors, maybe, with his coaching future, and Ole Miss punches their ticket to the CFP. What does Ole Miss do? If there's not an extension signed and there's not a long-term commitment outside of what he has already signed, because, by the way, he did sign a contract extension. So, what happens? Does Ole Miss say, hey, look, we got to get a verbal commitment out there. We got to do this. We got to do that. Or, I don't know, do you not even let him coach in the college football playoff?
That's a tough spot. And you hope that you have that good relationship with your coach. But if he refuses to give you do you even take that, though? If he tells you that? I guess you have to. What else are you going to do? But because his response would be, I've already signed the extension. What are we talking about here? Why don't you just let me concentrate on my team?
And let's go back 3 years ago what was he saying when Auburn was trying to hire him?
Mm-hmm.
What was he saying to the Ole Miss people? What was being done behind the scenes? And then, according to the E60, if it hadn't been for Landry, he would have been the coach at Auburn, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to hear something that'll make Ole Miss fans feel better?
Oh, sure.
So this is from October. This is going back to the conversation we had in the last segment. This is Lane Kiffin. He was on Pardon My Take, the popular Barstool podcast, in October. This was a little over a month ago. This is what he had to say.
No, I was like, I want to be Steve Spurrier.
Okay.
Like when I watched him and his offenses and the visor and kind of the way he would throw jabs at other coaches and teams and stuff, I was like, Steve Spurrier is the man. Like, that's what I want to be. So that's where I started the visor thing, and probably started some of the comments maybe of other programs too.
Wow. So he doesn't just
Interesting.
respect him. He even took on his persona, his personality. That's where he got it? Talking about other coaches? It all makes sense.
Well, how about this? I'm going to take you back to when he was the head coach of Tennessee. It was 2 months into his tenure in Knoxville. Kiffin accused former Florida head coach Urban Meyer of violating NCAA recruiting rules with wide receiver Nikese Richardson, who flipped from the Gators to the Vols on signing day.
That was a big get.
He ripped Urban pretty big, and Florida Athletic Director Jeremy Foley demanded an apology, calling Kiffin's allegations inappropriate, out of line, and most importantly, totally false. And SEC Commissioner Mike Slive publicly reprimanded Kiffin, who issued a statement. And this was what Kiffin said. In my enthusiasm for our recruiting class, I made some statements that were meant solely to excite those at the breakfast. I apologize to Commissioner Mike Slive and the SEC, including Florida AD Jeremy Foley and Coach Urban Meyer. My comments were not intended to offend anyone at the University of Florida. End of quote.
It's just funny that in hindsight, people were dying on the hill of trying to protect Urban Meyer of all people, because heaven forbid you say something critical of that man. That's funny.
Yes. But of course, we all know what happened to Lane Kiffin, pledging his love and loyalty to Tennessee, and that was out the door pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Lane's gonna lane.
Glad you found that clip.
Well, shout out to one of our wonderful listeners that managed to find that and send that to us very quickly. Appreciate that.
Gator Nation, they filmed pretty good in the last 24 hours. So somebody down there is definitely percolating the idea that it's as close to done as possible.
But I think, again,
You mean like how Virginia Tech hired James Franklin
I don't
2
have
weeks ago?
concrete evidence, but I can see Lane just playing it and giving them a little bit. The people at Florida
Just to
to
string
get
them
them
along?
excited, and then you get the people at Ole Miss that are excited for the wrong reasons. I think he enjoys it. He loves it. What's that line? 14.5. Might be a good week to bet against the Rebels.
Wouldn't that be something if they lost?
See, I almost feel the opposite way, right? Because if you now maybe some of the players have the idea of good riddance. If you're going to play this game and drag us along, then get out of here. But maybe you want to really put a beat down on Florida and go, Coach, we just beat them 42-7. That's the roster you want to leave us for? You want to go take over that program? All right, good
I'm
luck.
just saying he could be distracted. We know he keeps his phone in his pocket during games.
Maybe so.
He's answering text. Sexton's reaching out to him. Hey, this is the latest.
Maybe so. I think there will be a lot of attention paid to who he talks to pre and post game on Saturday. A lot of attention will be paid to that.
It's still not back up on the Vegas board. So take that for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We'll continue. Three-man front here on a very busy Football Friday on Jocks. 11:47. We continue here on Three Man Front. It is time for our friend JR, takingvegas.com. He's going to have his free pick. He's on fire with his free picks on the air, but we've expected that. We expect that because he does it every single football season. He joins us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. JR, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing it in Landrum as always, man. Couldn't be more excited about this upcoming weekend. College and pro football on the slate. That's going to be just an absolute smorgasbord of games coming our way. And quite frankly, we're going to make money hand over fist. I've got, first off, for anyone listening in Alabama, guys, I love this Alabama-Oklahoma matchup. The line on this game is Alabama -6, obviously at home. They're 8-1. Their opponent here, Oklahoma, 7-2 coming in. You guys are -6, total's 45.5. This game will be a huge win for us, and I'm giving it to you absolutely free. All you got to do is call the recorded line and get it there. No strings attached, no charge. 888-9-WIN-NOW. That's 888-994-6669. On the recorded line, you get the point spread winner of this Oklahoma-Alabama matchup. Guys, again, absolutely free. Looking for guys that obviously would like to do this at a higher level, that like making money betting on sports, but no matter who you are, you get this game free of charge on the recorded line right now. 888-994-6669.
What is going on with the NFL? We get the Packers and the Eagles. We had so many low-scoring games, it seems like, this year in marquee matchups. What is the deal with the lack of offensive production? Or the defense is that good?
I think it's a matter of also that you don't, and I hate to say it because we know that the quarterback play in the league has been great for about 30 years, but there's been a lull in quarterbacks coming out of the draft, if you ask me, over the last few years. Even some of the good ones, they're just getting injured too fast, and mainly that's got a lot to do with because they love to run the ball. A lot of the new quarterbacks these days are, not just, look at Jackson Dart. He can throw the ball, but he's too quick to pull it down and run, which is going to cause injury. You see it with Kyler Murray. You see it with, Joe Burrow with the turf toe. And, it's like everywhere you look, quarterbacks are just getting hurt more and more, and you don't have great backups that can come in and put up 30, 40 points like Joe Flacco's been doing in Cincinnati. So, I don't think it's just that it's great defenses. And I do think, listen, the refs have been absolutely disgraceful this year. It's been all over the league. But at the same time, I do feel like there's been less interference calls by the defense that kind of let them play a little bit more. And that's where maybe you see a little bit more defense coming through and, not so many calls going against, like it was a couple of years ago.
You always stress money management, and this time of year, it's never more true. Right now, money management. People are deep into the season. Some people, they're doing well. They're riding the coattails of previous plays. Others, they're trying to recoup it back, and you have some advice for those folks.
I do. And you know what, guys? You should, as I always stress to you, be making increases and using progression when you're winning, lowering the amounts that you're betting when you lose. But you got to do it with a certain amount of discipline. You got to have a game plan that is actually capable of being executed properly and actually works, that the math makes sense. So one of the things I do for bankroll development when I'm starting off with somebody new is I'll have you move your bets up on three net wins, and you're making an increase by 50%, and you're lowering the amount that you're betting on 2 net losses, not 3, but you're only lowering it by a third. And it sets up for really taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, which is kind of what we do here. We're grinders. We are looking to make money every week, but we're also not living in Neverland. I'm not Peter Pan. We're not going to win every game. We're not going to win every week. But in 40 weeks or 42 weeks that I give games out to my clientele, my target is to win 27 to 32 weeks, which we've been incredibly good at for decades now. So it starts like this. First off, call the number, 888-994-6669. 888-9-WIN-NOW. Going to give you the Alabama-Oklahoma game free of charge on a recorded line, no strings attached. 888-994-6669. Now, if you're serious about making money, stay on the line. Speak to somebody. You don't have to be betting thousands of dollars to be serious about wanting to win. But You speak to one of the experts. You get involved with a very inexpensive deal. You get great games and phenomenal strategy. And let's turn something that you've been doing as an entertainment into something that could possibly make you some really good money.
All right, you're 7-3 this year on the air. A couple of those games, to be honest, you got screwed. Everybody got screwed. But 7-3 on the air. You're going back to the NFL. That's the honey hole. Where are you going this week, JR?
So going out west. And you know, I do kind of like to run with and against certain teams, but this week we're going to go with another total. I believe we've hit now 4 in a row, and almost all of them have been totals. And you know that I love to go under, and you just made mention of all of these games that have been going under, which, by the way, there are some on the board this week that are not going to be going under. You see some good matchups where there could be a lot of scoring. But you got the Niners and the Cardinals. This line's at 48.5, opened up at 47.5. It's gone up a point. I think it's going to go another half a point higher. I would wait till game day, but you know what I say, man. Don't blunder. Go under 48.5 on the 49ers-Cardinals game, especially right now, the way the Cardinals' offenses look. And the way they played against the Dallas Monday a couple of weeks ago with that defense. And now you got Brock Purdy coming back after having been off for a few weeks. He's going to be a little rusty. I just don't see them scoring more than even 42 points in this game. So go under 48.5 as of now, 49 by game day, I believe, in this Niners-Cardinals matchup.
All right, one more time for the folks that not only want to get in on that, but also on Alabama and Oklahoma there with the phone line pick.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, man, Landrum, seriously, Alabama, the whole surrounding area, you guys are great clients. I get some of the best clients in the business right here in Alabama. That's why I love doing this interview with you, because it really does get at some of the best players. So, guys, if you want to win, regardless if you're going to sign up or not, take advantage of the free play. I'm giving you the winner of Alabama, Oklahoma. Number 4 against number 11 is free on the recorded line right now. 888-994-6669. That's 888-9-WIN-NOW. And as always, Landrum, let's be safe, let's have fun, and let's go out there and make some money.
Have you started your preparation on your Italian Thanksgiving feast yet? I always ask you this time.
I actually said something to my wife this morning, like more along the lines of, hey, do you want to go out to eat this year? What are you talking about? I said, because, I mean, you do the feast, but I got to listen to how you did all the cooking and every course, man. I just want to go out and enjoy Thanksgiving.
All right, next week you have to, for our listeners who've never heard it, you have to go over the spread and what you guys have for Thanksgiving. It's pretty incredible. JR.
Oh, my God. It's good. I hope you have an hour.
Yeah, JR, we always appreciate it, man. Thank you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
My pleasure, guys. Be safe.
JR, there you heard it. The free pick on the line in case you missed it. The under 48.5 and the 49ers and Cardinals coming up this weekend in the NFL. Lots more to come. Your phone calls, your texts are welcome. Coaching rumors. A lot of smoke that's out there. Will it lead to fire? Also, Alabama, Oklahoma, other big SEC matchups and big matchups around the country. We'll get into those. It's a Football Friday. Landrum, Pat, Conrad, Molly, and all of you right here on your home for college football, coaches, searches, and much, much more. Jocks.